Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for a link to my Amazon store where I've compiled some of the very best knives and gear. There's a whole bunch of different categories, including some of my own personal recommendations. There's something down here for everybody, so make sure you take a look. Thanks! What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a really cool knife review / knife overview to do with you guys. This is the Kershaw Knockout, but it's a sprint run in carbon fiber. An M390, can you see that right there? M390, oh boy. Talk about something that, it was like, in my mind, it was something I never knew that I really wanted, but it's here, and it's like, oh yeah, that was a great idea. This knife was provided to me by my good buddy Frank. He reached out to me after I sent that list out to my viewers and said, hey, I've got this if you want to take a look. And I said, yes, absolutely. I think people would be really interested in that. So thank you very much. This knife, I'm going to try and get this knife reviewed and out to you guys as quick as possible. So I'm hoping by the time you see it, it's still available. But this is a sprint run. And I'm going to save some people a lot of time. It is a very good sprint run. It's also made in the United States, and it is one of the best value US made premium knives that you will find, period. I have a video called Diminishing Returns, or I'm sorry, the US production knives and the point of diminishing returns. And this guy, the Hogue Ritter RSK MK1 G2, remains to be an incredible value US made knife utilizing M390 and G10. Now, there are some design features of that knife that a lot of people would consider to be both more, premium in a utilitarian sense and in an aesthetic sense. But we have a knife that is even less money. These knives run typically about $130. Yeah, I know you can get titanium and carbon fiber and D2 from China for $80 right now in some situations. Titanium, M390 and carbon fiber from China for $150, whatever. As far as US production knives go and premium materials go, and in the general sense of the word premium, this is an incredible deal. So if you're somebody who really likes to, keep the money in, like if you're from the United States and you like to put your money in US knives, well, here you go. This is an incredible value. Now I'm going to go over a whole bunch of other reasons why I think this knife is great. Let's start off here with, I'll just say this real quick. Thank you so much to my patrons who continue to support me. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, get your hands on some stickers. There's a link down below. I also have Patreon exclusive content. Thank you so much to my patrons. Tip to scale on this knife coming in at 7 3/4. Is it 7 3/4? Yeah, 7 3/4. Tip to scale on the blade. We're going to call that about 3.3 inches overall, but the blade length or cutting edge is also right there at about 3.3 inches, which is nice. It's hard to measure where, like directly from the pivot, you're probably looking at about 3.3, which is circumstantially exactly where the cutting edge is. So this is a full-size knife. It has a full-size blade, in my opinion. That's great. There are links down in the description for this knife, by the way. I'll make sure that you guys have a link where you can go pick this up. Size comparisons. How about up against the Ontario Rat Model 1? Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. So you can see here, this knife has similar blade length, similar handle length. The differences being really just contouring in the scales and shape of the blade, but we have a similar sort of profile here. There's one dimension of this knife is a lot different, but it's very comparable in overall size to the Benchmade Griptilian. And then last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Para 3 coming in at 7 1/4 inches overall. How's the action on this guy? This is an assisted knife. For those of you who don't like assisted knives, I'm sure you're wondering, can it be de-assisted? For a lot of people, that's going to bother them. As far as I understand, it cannot be de-assisted, but I feel like assisted knives get a bad rap. And it's this knife in particular that's sort of giving me the roundhouse to the face that I think I needed to reconsider my own personal feelings about assisted knives. As we knife people, right, we go through our stages. Nobody starts off with a freaking, $400 knife that's running on bearings and is titanium and is fall shut action and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff we like, right? Nobody starts off with that. A lot of people never even get there, but we graduate. A lot of us start off with gas station knives or fantasy knives, and then we have our first okay knife, and it's usually assisted, and then we graduate sometimes into a different or higher end assisted knife, and then we graduate into, you know, the typical high-end production world of Benchmade, Spyderco ZT, or WE knives, Bestech knives, right? Depends on where you're at. And those knives tend to be manual. In fact, most of them are. ZT has a couple of models that are still assisted. Benchmade has a couple of models that are assisted, but we all sort of learned that more premium knives have this direct correlation with non-assisted. The funny thing is that super high-end OTFs and automatic knives are completely acceptable. The difference is that a button releases a blade that's under tension, right? Or you push a switch forward, like, to give you an example, I mean, just to drive my point home, and because I love showing off my knives. On an OTF, right, you drive the switch forward and it fires it out. On a side opening automatic, you push the button, right, and it fires forward. On an assisted knife, the tension is created by pushing it down here. All right, now, so the only difference between these two is this, I have to pull down a little bit on a switch, and this, I have to push a button and they fire out, right? There's not, the difference between this knife and this knife is that the blade fires forward, but the movement, just to cover all areas of the point that I'm trying to make here, I have to move this switch a little bit and then it fires. On this one, I have to move this switch a little bit and it fires. Now, do OTFs and automatic knives feel better? Sure they do. But the difference in deployment mechanism and functionality is so close. I dare use the word trivial. I have come to the conclusion, and thank goodness for this amazing Kershaw knockout, but after handling this and trying to keep my mind off the fact that it is assisted, I've realized, why do I care? Why? Yeah, it sucks that it can't be de-assisted. It sucks that there is not a detent ball. I've decided that the problem is not the assisted feature. The problem with knives like this is the fact that they don't have a functional detent ball and hole that can be utilized if, one, the person buying it just wants to remove the assisted feature, or two, in the event that the torsion bar snaps and for whatever reason you can't utilize the warranty anymore, you still have a functional knife. That's the issue. The assisted thing is just, we've been mentally conditioned to not accept assisted knives past a certain price point. When the fact is that a lot of the high-end knives that many of us who don't like assisted knives love are features that are, you know, the automatic features that are basically the same thing, right? So, I mean, I'm preaching here, and I'm being a super hypocrite, because I've come down on knives that are at a certain price point for being assisted before and not gone this in depth. So what I'm saying is don't judge it so hard for the assisted feature, and it's important to remember that Kershaw or KaiUSA is very good about replacing broken torsion bars as long as you have not gotten into this knife and tried to modify it and messed something up and then the torsion bar broke, because then it's your fault and your warranty will likely be voided. Okay, enough of that. But yeah, don't judge it too hard, because we have quite an amazing piece here. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. Get out my handy dandy WEA bit selector and WEA magnetic driver, 2 items that are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them down in the Amazon store that I reference at the beginning of every video. Just open the link up, look for the category listed as knife maintenance near the bottom, and you will find this and a whole bunch of other really useful stuff. Let's check the pivot. T8. I always guess T8 there, and I'm 99% sure that the body screws are going to be T6. That is usually the case with Kershaw knives, but we always check just to be sure, and because it gives me the opportunity to plug this thing that you can go buy. Yeah, those are T6. I mean, I think it's worth checking the hardware, right? I always like to know during reviews. I feel like you guys do too. Those are all T6. Not a deal breaker. It's just frustrating because the bit size is small and you can screw the teeth up and you can screw the head up. Not that big of a deal. Never a deal breaker. It's just a frustration. So that's okay. No big deal. How about carry profile? So here's what I was talking about. Another dimension of this thing. It is very thin. This is not a thick knife, right? It's a little bit tall, but I mean, in terms of height, yeah, there's a flipper tab. But if you don't carry anything else in your pocket besides your knife, then that is a trivial thing. We're using the word trivial a lot today. Yeah, if you don't carry anything else in your pocket, who cares if there's a pocket pecker on it? If you carry other stuff in your pocket, it might bother you. In terms of height, it's definitely shorter. I mean, maybe not down here. It's close down here, but in terms of here and here versus the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3, which are very awkward carry knives and everybody loves them. Yeah, no contest there. I'd say it's easier to carry than both. And then it's also thinner than both by a pretty substantial margin, I would say. This is a very friendly knife to carry. If you like to carry a full-size knife, right? And you like to carry a full-size functional blade, but maybe you wear thin pan material, right? Maybe you do like to carry a full-size knife to more of a formal event or in an office, right? Maybe you're just that type of person. Hopefully it's legal there. That's first and foremost what's important. But here's the nice thing. Yeah, 3.28. My scale was like, nope, hang on. We're getting report it's actually lower. It's like a live update. News anchor getting a live update in the middle of a report. Anyways, 3.28 ounces. I mean, we're looking at I mean, if you go by the whole ounce and inch thing, if you go by the whole anything under 4 ounces, right? That's how you decide that it's good. Well, here you go. It nailed both of them. If you're like, oh, bug out only weighs the bug out weighs -3 ounces. Well, okay, well then I guess it's not as lightweight as the bug out or the Spyderco Para 3 lightweight. But in terms of like what you're getting for what it weighs, oh god, oh that's a happy carry for sure. No issues there whatsoever. Okay, have we got, I mean, by the way, we talked about the action. It is assisted, but it's nice and snappy, and it's exactly what you'd expect from a Kershaw assisted knife. They always seem to be high quality, and reports of torsion bars breaking they exist, but they're very rare, right? You're generally only going to hear about people complaining. So when you go to look up reviews and someone's like, oh, torsion bar broke. Well, for all the other thousands of people whose torsion bars didn't break, they're not going to be giving you constantly live updates, right? So that's why we hear so much about Omega springs breaking, torsion bars breaking, things like that, is because you're not going to report it if it's working just fine. So don't worry about that. Anyways, let's talk about the anatomy of this knife. So we have carbon fiber, actual carbon fiber, not a laminate, on both sides. And then we have the knockouts, it's a sub-frame lock. It's actually attached to the frame of the knife, which is really cool. And on the inside here, I also want to point out for anybody wondering, where is that gosh forsaken flashlight? There it is. On the inside here, right? Yeah, you can see both sides. The blade is running on a steel plate that is actually countersunk into the carbon fiber, which is awesome. That means that the knife blade itself is not running on carbon fiber. You're getting the benefit of carbon fiber, which is strength and weight, but then you're not, the part that would be weak, like if you were to run the blade and the bearings up against carbon fiber, that would not be good. You need a steel surface for the bearings. That's exactly what they've done here. So you're getting the benefit of the weight reduction while not sacrificing any type of long-term, like the durability of the knife and the fortification of the knife long-term is going to be there because the way that the knife is designed and built is very, very good. So I'm really happy with that. On top of that, the carbon fiber really looks great. I mean, there's not any crazy contouring, anything going on. I mean, it's straightforward, but I mean, the handle is very comfortable. Anybody who's never handled the knockout, it's very comfortable. It's an odd feeling because it's obviously a full, I mean, a lot of people look at that and go, that looks like a pretty big knife, right? And you pick it up and you realize, oh boy, it's thin and it's light. It's like light as a feather, right? And it's because your brain tells you before you pick up an object, I bet it weighs about that much. This is one of the most, I mean, like, it's so far away from what your brain expects. Even looking at this and going, that's carbon fiber and that's a fairly thin blade stock. It just looks tall, right? It's probably pretty light. Even still, knowing that, I pick it up and I go, oh yeah, that's light. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's nice. That's pleasant, you know. Sometimes I do prefer heft, but understanding how, you know, the construction of these knives, you know, which construction features are actually going to benefit you in terms of longevity, I'm happy with that. I'm happy to accept that. And it also, considering my own personal preferences, like liking heft, that's not shared by the common man or the common woman in the knife community, right? So it's this nice, I know that you guys like that. I know you guys like good ratios, you know, weight, you know, that's universally accepted by a lot of people, right? So it makes me happy to point that out, right? But anyways, we do have thumb studs here, and they are completely functional. The nice thing is anybody who's practicing getting the reverse flick down, because it is a an assisted knife, all you have to do is just get enough force into there to lift it, and then the knife does the rest of the feature, or the rest of the deployment for you. So that's a nice thing, I guess, in terms of an assisted knife, is there is some added benefit and fidget factor there. There is no jimping up top. I don't know that it really needs it. I would have liked a little bit, but it doesn't necessarily need it. There is no real shouldering, but there's plenty of surface contact, so I'm sure that's just fine. Thumb studs are a little bit in the cutting path. So you are losing, I mean, if you're going to cut straight down into cardboard, which is something I like, right? If I'm going to cut right down into cardboard, I like to have that, the thumb stud out of the way of the cutting path. So if you're doing a slicing, you know, your movements like this, you know, it's no big deal. But if you are going to cut cardboard, you kind of have to do it at an angle to make sure it doesn't run into that thumb stud. Not that big of a deal, just something I wanted to point out. This knife has a flat that carries out only about 20%, the length of the blade, 25%, but the blade stock thickness being, let's go ahead and take a look here real quick, zero it out. Blade stock thickness being 120 thousandths. I mean, it's not super thick, but it's also not super thin, right? You can see there's reasonable thickness carried out to the tip. So don't stick the tip in and pry around on different things, you know. That's probably asking for it, but yeah, I mean, in terms of how the blade is shaped, there's reasonable durability being carried out here. The blade aesthetic is really nice. There's a nice wedge up on top, but the best feature is, of course, how much room it has to drop down towards the cutting edge. The cutting edge is not only plentiful, but it is very thin. And again, it's M390. This is a performance-oriented, lightweight, full-size cutting tool. And that seems like something that we would be in plentiful supply of in the knife world. But the funny thing is it's one of those things is oftentimes missing. And it's funny because it's like looking at it, right? And like looking at this, I'm like, well, yeah, why didn't everybody do this? This is awesome. You know, and then not everybody does it. Not necessarily like every single knife designer out there is seeking this and unable to obtain it, right? And everybody's trying to design different things that are going to be appealing for different reasons. But here is a knife for people looking for a full-size knife that has premium materials, both in handle and in blade, and can actually cut really well and is comfortable while you're doing that. I mean, they got that. The performance and the utility and the, you know, the reason to carry a knife because it cuts, right? And then, well, I need it to cut for a long time and I like it to be lightweight and I want to be able to carry it in like a multitude of different situations, right? But I just like a full-size knife. Well, here you go. And I know there's a lot of people out there. This is already a really popular design and lots of people like carbon fiber, you know, for the obvious benefits, and everybody seems to like M390, understandably. So here you go. It's like this, yeah, I'm glad we have this. Anyways, moving on here, we have nicely rounded off. By the way, there's no sharp edges up here or anything like that. This tumbling always looks nice. It's sort of Kershaw's, their concrete looking tumbling, which is great. It's really going to hide wear well. The edges of the carbon fiber are nicely knocked down. There's no real, you know, contouring going on, but like I said, you know, the lines in the handle are really going to take care of the whole lock-in thing, so you really don't have to worry about that. Moving down here, like I said, 2 body screws holding in a backspacer that's honestly, I'm not sure what the material is. It might be plastic. It really doesn't matter. I honestly don't care what the backspacer's made, even being made of plastic, right? Sandwiched between these 2 pieces of carbon fiber. The very last thing to fail on this knife, if you were to put it under extreme force, would be that backspacer, I'd venture to guess. Right now, I know a lot of people, well, why did I don't want any plastic on it. Why couldn't it at least be G10? Maybe it is G10. It doesn't look fibrous. It certainly isn't carbon fiber. But if it is a piece of FRN, I just don't care. It's flush. It's doing its job. There's 2 pieces. There's 2 screws going into it. That's fine. The screws go all the way through to these sort of Chicago thread style things. And it looks like that's the same case over here on this side going into the carbon fiber. Now, it doesn't look like, yeah, on the inside there's no plate. So it's kind of like how Benchmade does it, where it just goes into the piece. You can't screw into carbon fiber. So that's sort of how they did that there. That's fine. No big deal. The pocket clip is a simple Kershaw deep carry clip. It will likely snag on something and break or bend out at some point. No big deal. You can take it off, bend it back, or if it breaks, you can contact Kai USA. They'll send you another one out. They're pretty good about that. It is, set up for both right or left-handed carry. Tip up, which is the way it should be, especially as an assisted flipper. I know people will disagree with me, but Carry it like this in your pocket and you're right-handed, well, so you bump up against something, it could open up like this in your pocket, which isn't good. And it's spring assisted, so that's not good either, right? But if you carry it like this, then the blade's back up against the seam of your pocket. It's not likely something's gonna hit the flipper tab down there, but even if it does, oh, it's backed up against your hand. Or, well, in that case, the back seam of your pocket, so you're good. Anyways, this sub-frame lock here is made of steel, which is great. The steel on steel contact is going to make sure that that lock bar does not wear quickly over time. It's a good design feature. It keeps everything lightweight, and it can be replaced a little bit less expensively than the entire frame of a frame lock. Now I know, lock bar insert, that would have been easier, and they could have made it titanium, put away. Well, it would have been more expensive if they did that. So yeah, I like it. It's got easy engagement. It's very easy to engage and disengage, so it's very comfortable. And no matter what you're doing with this knife, if you're playing with it or you're actually using it, it's very comfortable, right? Even in gloves, it's going to be comfortable. The other thing I like is that the pivot is captive, so it's not going to free spin, which is awesome. Really, really happy with that. So again, let's go over some things that I don't like about this knife. It has T6 screws, and the thumb stud is slightly in the cutting path. You will lose about 1/5 of an inch of cutting edge if you're cutting straight down. And that's about it. Other than that, this is a fantastic home run from Kershaw. Kershaw makes me, it's a love-hate relationship because they're under KaiUSA like ZT. Kershaw seems to be able to, it's like every 3 pitches, they hit a home run, right? Zero Tolerance, on the other hand, they get about 20 pitches and they bunt it and they make it to first or second base, right? Maybe they make it to first and somebody fumbles or somebody drops the ball and they get to second, right? Oh my gosh, Mental Complex has no idea how baseball works. I understand sports analogies. Get off my back. But you know what I mean? It's like why can't ZT get it? They were getting it, like everything ZT did. It was, we're not here to talk about ZT, but Kershaw just seems to get it right. And if you're looking for a U.S. made knife that is made well and it won't break the bank, right? But you're ready to kind of step into this more premium blade steel world, this more premium material world, for no other reason than just wanting to be part of the club. Because let's be honest, you really don't, in my opinion, nobody needs to spend more than about 40 to 50 bucks on a good pocket knife, right? But you're not going to get a good US made pocket knife for that money. There are a few out there that are okay, but I can argue spending money all the way up to about here where you're going to get an extra benefit, which is why I used to say this knife was basically the point of diminishing returns in American production knives, right? It's really hard to argue every dollar past the Ritter Hogue in terms of what you're gaining for utility. This knife is really, really fighting for that title over this guy because, yeah, it is assisted, but it's a U.S. knife. It's made with good materials. It's lightweight. It's got good carry dimensions. It's got good ratios all the way across, and it's got a performance-oriented blade, and the build quality, the build structure is dependable, right? This thing is set up to, in coordination with the warranty. Kai's got a great warranty. It's set up to be a long-lasting cutting tool. This isn't something you just throw away. It's something that's made to be used for a long time. Considering what it costs at about 130 bucks, it's like, God dang, it's hard for me to recommend. Somebody's like, I just really want that high-end stuff, but I don't want to spend 200, 300, 400 bucks on it, and I want a US knife right here. Kershaw Knockout, sprint run and M390. So the only downside is this is a sprint run, which means eventually this will go away, right? I'm hoping that they keep doing different versions of this and other really popular knives from Kershaw's line in carbon fiber and M390, or G10 with the countersunk liner in M390. Do that because people like that. That's always an easy knife to go with. The first time, and I know Kershaw's got a couple of models out there, but we're gonna see in the very near future, we're gonna see a G10 with a countersunk steel liner M390 Kershaw that's under the $75 mark. That is a incredible model from Kershaw, like one of the most popular models. I guarantee that's what we're going to see. And somebody might be able to say, well, they already have that. They have this, maybe so. But what I'm saying is the first one to do that and make it a normal thing, as far as U.S. manufacturers go, that are the people are generally like thumbs up for, it's going to be Kershaw. It's always something I'm going to appreciate about Kershaw. It's just great, very recommendable. Pick this up, even if you are not like specifically looking for this, right? If you stumbled on this video and you're somebody who regularly buys knives between $100 and $300, you're going to be happy with this. Absolutely. This is running pretty long, guys, so we're going to go ahead and end it here. I think you guys get the point. Like I said, there's links down below where you guys can pick this up. Hopefully, it's still available by the time you're watching this. In any case, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this metal complex logo right here and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.